Hey everyone, this video is Hey everyone, this video is the first in a series of building a responsive website from scratch using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'll be showing you step by step how to build a website from a free design from frontendmentor.io. In this first video, we'll be setting up our project and building out the It is from frontendmentor.io. It's called Easy, but if you with a free there's also a style guide is we copied and pasted. So now that so here from Mentor, and we also have the style guide, which is helpful to tell you, what's the designs at, as well as some colors and font information. So we'll definitely be using those. And we have the images folder here with all the images. Okay, so when I'm working with website projects, usually I'm going to be using Sass, SCSS syntax, and we're going to have to also have some JavaScript. So let's create those files now. So in the project root, I'm going to create a folder called app. In that folder, I'm going to create two subfolders, one for JS for the JavaScript file, and one for SCSS for our Sass files. So in the Sass file folder, let's create our main Sass file, style.scss, and this is going to be the main Sass file that we're going to import all of our partial Sass files into. And we're going to create one called globals, SCSS, yeah, that's right. I also usually create one called variables, because I like using Sass variables a lot. So let's import those into our main Sass file. Import variables, because we want our variables to come first so the other Sass files can use them. Then import globals. Okay, so let's start adding some boilerplate styles here. So the global, the first one I usually do is in the HTML selector, I'm going to say font size is 100%. This is more accessible, lets the user control the zoom level in the browser. We're also going to do box sizing, border box. And what this property does is it makes the size of elements sort of include padding in the final width. So it's just a bit easier when you're working with elements like that. And we also want to inherit that box sizing border box to all elements. So using the wildcard selector here, as well as the before pseudo element, and the after pseudo element selector. And we're going to inherit the box sizing border box from the HTML element. Now, for the body element, let's add some sort of resets here. So we'll say margin 0, padding 0. I also like to do a line height of 1.3 just to add some spacing between lines. And we're going to add our fonts in as well. Look at the style guide. It said that the font that we're using is Public Sans. We'll go to our browser here, copy this in. I think it wanted to use 300 light and then 400 regular, so I'll select both of those, and we're going to embed it. We'll just copy this link tag here and put it in our index.html over here above the title. Now, since we're in the index.html file, let's also add a link tag for our CSS file. I'm going to create a dist folder, and I want to put all my final CSS files in there. So I'm going to say dist.style.css. And then we also, I think, want to add a script to load our JavaScript file. That one's just going to be in the app folder, so app.js, script.js. So let's go into our folder here and create that. Script.js, then we'll just add some test code so we can test it. Hello world, why not? Now that we have some Sass files, just basic styles added, let's also test out our Sass workflow. To compile my Sass to CSS, I like to use this extension called Live Sass Compiler. So if you don't have this installed yet, you can just type in Live Sass Compiler in the extensions marketplace and click this button to install it. You might need to restart VS Code if you're installing it for the first time now. But once you have that set up, when you open a project file, you should see some buttons in the bottom. One says Watch Sass, and the other one says Go Live. So if we click that Watch Sass button, going to watch our SAS files. And then, if you want to go live, we click the Go Live button, and it should load the local website in our browser. And you can see that is indeed the case. Obviously, this doesn't look too fancy since, we just added the text from the design here. But we can also check down in the console window here, and our Hello World message is loading, so it looks like everything is working correctly. We need to add that font to our code. So in our globals, we're going to say font family, and let's do that before line height. Font family, it was called Public Sans. So we're just going to copy this over. There we go. Okay, so let's check our browser again, and we don't need this anymore. So it looks like we have the font Public Sans successfully imported. So now, going back to our VS Code, what we want to do is we want to basically start creating the markup for our website. So let's go into our index.html file, and we're going to start writing markup over here. I'm just going to actually comment out all the copy from the design, just so we don't have this extra stuff, visible on the website. We're going to start writing our markup. So let's go back to our design. And what I'm going to do is try to do the mobile first approach, and we're going to make our default styles without media queries, the mobile styles, and we're going to build a mobile website first. And what I usually do is I'll go from the top down. So let's start with the header. If you take a look at the header, it has a logo on the left and it has a hamburger button on the right, which then, when you open it, opens this mobile menu. And if we compare that to what we have for the desktop design, it also has a logo on the left that has some links, looks like in the middle, and then there's a CTA button on the right side. So let's create the markup and styles for this header. In our body tag, we're going to create a header. And then in that header, we want to add our logo image. And we're also going to assume that this is going to link to the home page. So we'll just make that, open that. And then in this anchor tag, we want to add our image for the logo. So image source, images, and then we want to look for this logo, SVG. Then alt, we'll call that Easy Bake, since that's the name of the site we're making. Let's see if that loaded on our site. Okay, so that was easy, right? I think actually what I want to do in addition to that is create a nav, and I'm going to put everything in that navigation in this nav tag. What we got is the logo, and then we have our hamburger menu on the right. So that's probably also going to be an anchor link. It's just going to go to the same page, and we want to create a hamburger menu. And the hamburger menu is those 3 lines, so let's create 3 spans. So we're using Emmet shortcut span times 3. So 3 empty spans. And we also probably need a class for this, and we're just going to call this hamburger for the hamburger menu. And in the same way, maybe we can create a class up here for the logo. So we'll say class equals logo. If we look back at the design, we can see that everything is in one line. So that tells me that this nav element should probably be a flexbox parent to put everything on the same line. Now, one other thing I like to do is I like to use a lot of helper classes. So instead of having to write display flex on every single element in this web page that is a flexbox parent, we're going to create a helper class called flex. And I'm going to add that in our globals. Right there. So flexbox styles. We'll say flex class, and we're going to say display flex. And let's add a few other flex related classes. So flex, when properly used a lot is justify content. So let's say JC dash space between. That would be justify content space between, because that is used quite often. You can also maybe create one for center. And I'm just going to basically be creating these as, as we need them. Let's also create some align content properties. So align content, and usually it's align content center. So we'll write that align content, align items rather, center. So it's I center. Okay, So this is fine for now. We're probably going to use more later. But now what we've done is, in my Sass, I've created a flex class for display flex, and then these other ones for the flex properties. So what I can do now is, let's see, split this up. So you can see our HTML on the left and our styles on the right. What I'm going to do is, in the nav, in addition to the flex class, we also want a flex justified content space between. So let's just check out how it looks in the browser. Okay, so you can see our logo here. Let's see what's going on. So you can see the nav here. So we have a logo, and then we have a hamburger class, but it looks like that has a 0 width. And box model. So yeah, it looks like it has a no width, but there is a height. So what we probably need to do is make those spans. Spans by nature are display inline. So that means they're not going to take up any space if there's like no content in them. So what we want to do is we want to add some styles now for our header. So we go back to our Sass folder, create a new Sass file. We're going to call this header.scss. And then we want to make sure that we are importing that into our main Sass file. So just trying to keep things organized here. Header. Now, in our header, what we want to do is, I think I'm going to add another class for the header. Let's say class header. And this is so I can use bound block element modifier for writing my Sass classes. So first we have this main element header, and then in here we're going to say maybe header underscore underscore logo, and then header underscore underscore menu, maybe under menu. Okay, so now in our Sass files we can start using the ampersand for header. Then there's a logo, and then another one for the menu. This is the mobile menu. So there's our little comment here saying that mobile menu. And we also have an image tag here. So I'm not sure if I need this, but we'll just add it here anyway. So in the menu, we have some span elements. I'm just going to use a direct child selector here to make sure we keep things as specific as possible. And we're going to say display block for these spans. Now, if we go back to the design, the header of the menu looks like a bunch of dark black or very dark gray lines. So we're going to start with some general styles here. First things first, actually, we probably want to get our colors added in from the style guide. So you can see here, these are all the different colors. They're using HSL instead of hex, but that's totally fine. So let's start adding variables for our colors so we can reuse them. So dark blue.
This is Thomas. Hi, I'm Thomas.
Now, we're probably going to use this dark blue color for the hamburger menu, and we'll just kind of see how that looks. So let's close our script file here. We don't want to do that right now. So go back to our header Sass file. We want those lines to be that dark blue color, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say width, and the width of those hamburger lines since this is a JPEG, this is kind of the only way that we can really see how big things are. I'm creating a little rectangle here that's semi-transparent, so you can still see through it, but you can still move it around and you can kind of use it to see how big things are. Pretty small. Looks like it's about 26 and then about 12 or 13 height. Okay. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to set this to, I think it's 26 pixels, and then the height of each, this is just for each line, so let's say 2 pixels. Oh yeah, and then the background color. Background color, and we'll use the dark blue variable. Alright, let's see how that looks on the website now. Okay, so it's a little small up here, but we do have our hamburger lines here, but we need to add some spaces between the lines. So what I'm going to do is, I want to add a margin bottom to all the spans except the last one. So what we can do is we can use the not selector, so not last child. And then if it's not the last child, we'll say margin